Battles raged across 100 systems. Millions died on both sides, 5 years. The war had raged for 5 years without pause. The initial fury and righteous anger that had driven humanity forward had transformed into something darker. Exhaustion, desperation. A grinding, endless cycle of violence that consumed everything. Rear Admiral Jin Ho Kwan stood on the bridge of his battlecruiser, the morning light, and looked at reports from the latest engagement. Victory, technically. The human fleet had driven off Velcrin forces from the mining colony on Outpost Theta 9, but 62 ships lost, thousands dead. And for what? A mining colony that produced raw materials Earth desperately needed to keep building more ships to fight more battles to lose more people. Jin Ho was 58 now, though he looked 70. Gray hair, deep lines in his face, eyes that had seen too much death. He had been a merchant captain before the war, transporting goods between Earth and the colonies. Now he commanded battle groups and signed death warrants. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving distress calls from New Terra. Council forces have begun orbital bombardment. Another colony under attack. Another emergency. Another impossible choice about where to send their limited forces." Jinho made the call, knowing that wherever he sent ships, somewhere else would be left undefended. Earth itself had transformed beyond recognition. Every resource went to the war effort. Factories ran constantly, producing weapons and ships and armor. Food was rationed. Power was limited. Children grew up knowing nothing but war, watching their parents leave for military service, sometimes never returning. Dr. Yoon Ji-yoon worked in a military hospital on Earth, treating wounded soldiers who came back from the front lines. She was a trauma specialist, but no amount of medical training prepared her for what she saw. Young men and women with bodies broken by alien weapons. Others with bodies intact but minds shattered by what they had experienced. "I can't sleep," a 19-year-old pilot told her. Sergeant Tae-min Nam, fresh from his 3rd tour. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the ships burning. I see my wingmate's fighter explode. I hear her screaming on the comm before she died. I can't make it stop." Yoonji prescribed medications that barely helped. She provided therapy that treated symptoms without curing the disease. Because the disease was war itself and war consumed them all, Taemin kept a journal, writing down his experiences between missions. He wrote about the camaraderie with his squadron, about the terror of combat, about watching friends die, about the strange disconnect between the beautiful stars outside his cockpit and the violence happening among them. "We're told we're fighting for Earth's freedom," he wrote one night, "and we are. But sometimes I wonder if freedom bought with this much blood is still freedom, or just a different kind of prison." His journals would later become famous documents of the war, but Taemin didn't know that. He just wrote because it was the only way to process the impossible weight of what he was living through. In the 5th year of the war, Commander Bora Kim led her remaining Retribution Corps soldiers on their most daring mission yet. Intelligence had located High Arbiter Tholmak's command ship, the Eternal Judgment, in a heavily defended system. Killing him would not end the war, but it would hurt the Velcrin leadership and disrupt their command structure. "This is a suicide mission," Bora told her team honestly. "We'll need to jump directly into their formation, board the flagship, fight through their security, reach Tholmak, and somehow escape. Our chances are maybe 1 in 10. Every soldier volunteered anyway. They had all lost too much to stop now. The operation succeeded, but at terrible cost. Bora's team of 30 elite soldiers managed to breach the Eternal Judgment, using experimental teleportation technology. They fought through corridors filled with Velcrin warriors. They found Tholmak in his command chamber and, in brutal close-quarters combat, killed the being who had ordered Ambassador Kim's execution. But only 4 soldiers made it back to the extraction point. Bora Kim was one of them, bleeding from multiple wounds, carrying a dead teammate who she refused to leave behind. Of her original 300 Retribution Corps soldiers, fewer than 20 remained alive. The assassination of High Arbiter Tholmak triggered a power struggle within the Council. Different factions competed to fill the vacuum. Some wanted to escalate the war. Others, tired of the endless casualties, began to question whether victory was even possible. Chancellor Dalvin, a moderate from a neutral species, rose to a position of influence. They had watched 5 years of war achieve nothing except death and destruction. They began secret communications with Earth through Counselor Nice, who had been passing intelligence to humanity throughout the conflict. "We must talk," Dalvin's message said simply. "This war serves no one." But when President Park presented the peace offer to Earth's government, he faced fierce opposition. General Kang, who had led Earth's military expansion, demanded total victory. "We've lost millions of people," she argued. "We've sacrificed everything. We can't stop now without making those sacrifices meaningless. We push forward until the Council surrenders completely." "And how many more millions must die?" President Park asked wearily. "How many more years of war? How much more can Earth endure?" The debate raged for weeks. Earth's population was divided. Some, like General Kang, wanted to fight until the Council was destroyed. Others, exhausted by years of loss and hardship, desperately wanted peace. Parents who had lost children. Children who had lost parents. A generation that had known nothing but war. Ji-won Choi, now a senior intelligence officer, had spent 5 years analyzing the war. She presented her findings to the president. "We can't win decisively, not without destroying ourselves in the process. The Council has too many resources, too many worlds, but they can't defeat us either. We're too adaptable, too stubborn. This war will continue until one side or both are extinct unless we find another way." Admiral Han agreed. She had commanded fleets for 5 years, won dozens of battles, but understood that military victory was impossible. "Every ship we destroy, they can replace. Every world we take, they can blockade. We're evenly matched in a war neither side can win." The turning point came during the Battle of Io, one of Jupiter's moons. The Council launched a massive offensive aimed at Earth itself, sending 10,000 warships to break through humanity's home defenses. It was meant to be the decisive battle that ended the war. For 2 weeks, the battle raged in the Jupiter system. Human defenders fought with desperate courage, using every trick, every weapon, every advantage they had developed. The Council's numerical superiority meant nothing in the asteroid belts and electromagnetic chaos of Jupiter's environment. Human forces turned the giant planet's weather systems into weapons, used its moons as shields, adapted to conditions that confused Council sensors. The Council fleet was destroyed. 7,000 warships lost. The survivors retreated in chaos. Earth stood victorious, but the victory felt hollow. The human fleet had lost 3,000 ships of its own. Nearly half of Earth's orbital infrastructure was damaged. The battle had been so fierce that debris created a dangerous cloud around Jupiter that would take decades to clear. Admiral Han, wounded during the battle, spoke to President Park from her hospital bed. "We won, Earth is safe, but if we keep fighting, the next battle might not go our way. And even if it does, how many more battles can we survive?" On the Council side, the Battle of Io shattered the last illusions about defeating humanity quickly. They had thrown their full strength at Earth's home system and been crushed. If they could not win there, they could not win anywhere. Chancellor Dalvin reached out again. This time even the hardliners listened. "We propose formal negotiations. Not surrender. Not capitulation. Real talks between equals about ending this war." Commander Bora Kim visited her uncle's memorial on Earth. 5 years of war, 5 years of fighting to avenge his death. She had killed the being responsible. She had led hundreds of missions. She had become a legend. But standing before the simple stone that bore Taeyang Kim's name, she felt empty. "Did we do right?" she whispered to the memorial. "Would you be proud of what we became to avenge you?" The memorial offered no answer. But as Bora stood there, she realized that her uncle had died defending peace, not demanding war. He had refused to surrender Earth's freedom, yes, but he had gone to the Council with hope, not hatred. Perhaps, she thought, the best way to honor his memory was not more violence. Perhaps it was to find a way to end the violence while keeping what he had died to protect: Earth's freedom, Earth's dignity, Earth's right to exist as equals among the stars. She walked away from the memorial with a decision made. She would support peace talks, not because she forgave the Council, not because she forgot what they had done, but because 5 years of war had taught her that vengeance had a cost no one could afford to keep paying. Across Earth, millions of others were reaching the same conclusion. They had proved themselves. They had shown the galaxy that humanity could not be broken. Perhaps that was enough. The war was not over. But the possibility of peace for the first time in 5 years existed. The first battle happened in a system called Threshold 7, a Velcrin military outpost that guarded one of the main routes into Council space. The Velkrin commanders received warnings about approaching human ships but dismissed them as errors. Humans were 3 weeks away at standard council travel speeds. Their sensors must be malfunctioning. The human fleet arrived in 6 hours. Dr. Shin's new quantum drive technology let human ships travel 3 times faster than council vessels. The Velkrin base had time to raise shields and launch fighters, but no time to call for reinforcements. 200 Velkrin warships faced 1,000 human vessels. Captain Jae-hwan Moon commanded the assault from the bridge of Earth's new flagship, the Indomitable. He was 42 years old, a veteran of Earth's small colonial defense forces, now promoted to lead humanity's largest battle group. Through the viewport, he watched Velkrin ships scramble into defensive formations they had used for millennia. "They're forming the defender's wall," his tactical officer reported. "Standard council defensive pattern, ships in a sphere, overlapping fields of fire, shields linked for maximum strength." "Then we won't attack it like they expect," Captain Moon said calmly. "All fighters launch. Execute pattern chaos." 3,000 human fighters poured from the fleet's carriers. But instead of attacking the defensive sphere directly, they scattered in seemingly random directions. Some dove toward the nearby planet. Others accelerated away from the battle. A few flew directly at the sun. The Velkrin commanders were confused. Were the humans retreating? Were they lost? The fighters seemed to have no coordination, no plan. Then the quantum torpedoes arrived. Dr. Shin's weapons didn't travel through space like normal missiles. They teleported. One moment they were launching from human ships. The next moment, they were inside the Velkrin defensive sphere, appearing behind shields and inside the protective formations. Velkrin warships exploded. Their linked shields meant damage cascaded through their entire formation. Explosions triggered more explosions. The carefully maintained defensive sphere collapsed in minutes. The scattered human fighters suddenly converged. From all directions at once, their apparent chaos revealed as a complex 3-dimensional attack pattern that struck from every angle simultaneously. The Velkrin had never faced enemies who attacked from above and below in space combat. Their tactics assumed a 2-dimensional battlefield. It was over in 40 minutes. 200 Velkrin warships destroyed or captured. The human fleet lost 17 ships. Captain Moon broadcast the battle footage back to Earth and to every council world within range. The message was clear. Humanity knew how to fight. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Tholmak raged at his subordinates. "How did inferior human vessels destroy a fortified base? We have superior numbers, superior technology, superior experience. They fight differently," Counselor Nis said quietly. "They don't follow standard combat protocols. They innovate in real time. They're unpredictable." "They're lucky," Tholmak snapped. "One victory means nothing. We will crush them with our full might." But one victory became 5, then 10, then 20. Lieutenant Su Young-bae became Earth's first fighter ace in the Battle of the Crimson Nebula. She pioneered a maneuver that used a nebula's magnetic fields to slingshot her fighter at impossible speeds, letting her strike from angles the enemy couldn't predict or defend against. Other pilots studied her techniques and adapted them. Soon entire squadrons were using tactics the Council had never imagined. Admiral Han's fleet struck 12 Council outposts simultaneously across 3 sectors. Each attack was different. One used electronic warfare to blind enemy sensors before striking. Another pretended to retreat, then ambushed the pursuing Council forces. A third coordinated with civilian human ships to create false sensor contacts that drew defenders out of position. The Council had spent thousands of years refining their way of war. They had rules, protocols, expected behaviors. Humanity ignored all of it. Human commanders made decisions that seemed illogical by Council standards. They took risks that seemed suicidal. But they won. Not always, not easily. Human ships died in every battle. Thousands of young men and women who had volunteered to defend Earth never came home. Admiral Han read the casualty reports every night, memorizing names, haunted by the cost of each victory. But Earth kept fighting. For every ship lost, 3 more launched from Earth's shipyards. For every soldier killed, 10 more volunteered. The Council had expected humanity to break under pressure. Instead, pressure made humanity stronger. In the AudioBook 6th month of the war, Ambassador Kyung Mio began a different kind of campaign. She had been Earth's second choice for the diplomatic mission, passed over in favor of Taeyang Kim. His death haunted her. She was supposed to be on that mission. She was supposed to die instead of him. Now she fought her own war with words instead of weapons. She traveled to neutral worlds beyond Council space, meeting with species who chafed under Council rule. The Krell clans, a warrior species that the Council had conquered centuries ago and forced into submission. The Yoth Collective, whose peaceful philosophy made them refuse to fight but also resent Council domination. Dozens of smaller species who saw the Council as oppressors rather than protectors. You see what they did to Ambassador Kim, Kyungmi told the Krell war chief Grom. They executed him because he refused to surrender Earth's freedom. How many of your people have they killed for the same reason? How long will you let them rule over you? Grom was a massive being, 3 meters tall, covered in scales and battle scars. His species had fought the Council for 50 years before finally being beaten by overwhelming numbers. Now they served as shock troops for Council military operations, doing the dangerous work while Council species took the glory. Earth is one small world, Grom rumbled. The Council is 17 species with millions of worlds. Even if we joined you, we would lose. Perhaps, Kyungmi said. But we would lose free. And maybe, just maybe, we would take enough of them with us that the next species they threaten has a chance. Isn't that worth fighting for? The Krell clans debated for 3 weeks, then Grom sent his answer. 50 Krell warships would join Earth's fleet. It wasn't many, but it was a beginning. The Council's alliance was cracking. The real turning point came at the Battle of New Hope Colony, a human settlement on the edge of Council space. The Velkryn sent a massive fleet, 3,000 warships, to destroy the colony and prove that Earth's core worlds were vulnerable. They wanted to massacre civilians to break human morale. Commander Bo-Ra Kim and her Retribution Corps were stationed at New Hope. They had 400 soldiers, 30 defense platforms, and no chance of surviving a direct assault by 3,000 ships. We can't evacuate everyone in time, the colony governor told Bo-Ra. 300,000 civilians. We need 3 days to get them all to transports. The Velkryn will be here in 6 hours. Bo-Ra looked at her team. 300 soldiers who had trained for a year for exactly this kind of impossible situation. They all knew the odds. They all understood what she was about to ask. We hold, she said simply. For 3 days we hold. The Retribution Corps used every trick they had learned. They hacked the Velkryn communication network and fed false information. They deployed experimental mines that looked like asteroids. They rigged the defense platforms to explode like massive bombs when destroyed, taking nearby ships with them. They fought from the colony surface, from orbital stations. From damaged ships they turned into weapons. For 3 days, 300 humans held off 3,000 Velkryn warships. They died in dozens, then hundreds. The colony burned. The defense platforms were destroyed one by one. But the transports kept launching, carrying civilians to safety. On the 3rd day, Admiral Han's relief fleet arrived. The Velkryn, already bloodied by the desperate defense, found themselves caught between the defending forces and fresh human warships. They retreated in chaos, leaving behind hundreds of destroyed vessels. Commander Bo-Ra Kim survived, though barely. She had lost 247 of her 300 soldiers, but 300,000 civilians lived. The Retribution Corps became legends. The Council finally understood what they were facing. Earth was not going to surrender. Earth was not going to negotiate. Earth was going to fight until either humanity or the Council ceased to exist. In Council chambers, even Tholmak's allies began to question the war. The Velkryn had lost thousands of ships. Other Council species who had contributed forces were suffering heavy casualties. Trade was disrupted. Resources were being drained. And still humanity kept coming, kept fighting, kept refusing to break. How do we defeat an enemy that sees death as acceptable? One Council member asked. You give them enough death that even they have to accept defeat, Tholmak insisted, but his voice carried less certainty than before. Captain Moon's tactical genius, Lieutenant Bay's flying skills, Admiral Han's strategic brilliance, Commander Kim's courage, Ambassador O's diplomacy. All of it combined into a war machine that the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity was outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Humanity was fighting 17 species at once. Humanity should have lost in the first month. Instead, the war ground into brutal stalemate. The Council could not break Earth. Earth could not defeat the Council. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the observation deck of the Horizon's Promise. Ambassador Tae-Young Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the massive space station grow larger in the viewport. Convergence Prime, the heart of the Galactic Council. After 3 years of careful communication and preparation, humanity was finally here. "It's bigger than I imagined," said Dr. Hannah Park, stepping beside him. She carried a data pad filled with notes about the 17 alien species they would meet today. For months she had studied their cultures, their languages, their ways of thinking. Nothing could truly prepare them for this moment. Tae-Yang smiled slightly. "Everything about this feels impossible. 50 years ago we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we're asking to join a council of aliens." Captain Dong-Woo Lee entered the observation deck, his uniform crisp and formal. "Ambassador will be docking in 20 minutes. Security protocols are in place. G1 has confirmed the translation software is working perfectly." "Good," Tae-Yang said. "Where is she?" "Going over the speech one last time," Dong-Woo replied. "She wants every word to be perfect." Ji-won Choi had spent countless hours refining the ambassador's speech. At 28, she was the youngest member of the diplomatic team, but her gift for languages made her invaluable. She understood that words could build bridges or burn them. Today, every word mattered. The docking procedure went smoothly. As the airlock opened, Tae-Yang took a deep breath. Behind him, his team of 12 humans prepared to step into a chamber filled with alien beings. They wore simple blue uniforms marked with Earth's symbol, a white circle containing green continents and blue oceans. The council chamber was vast. 17 platforms rose in a circle, each holding representatives of a different species. Some looked almost humanoid. Others were completely alien, beings of crystal or gas or living metal. At the center of the circle stood a small platform for petitioners. A towering creature with 4 arms and silver skin spoke first. Its voice came through their translators as deep and resonant. "Humans of Earth, I am High Arbiter Tholmak of the Velkrin Hegemony. You stand before the Galactic Council to request provisional membership. State your case." Tae-Young walked to the center platform. His heart pounded, but his voice remained steady. "Honored council members, humanity comes before you in peace. We are a young species, yes. We have made mistakes in our history. We have fought wars among ourselves. We have damaged our own world. But we have also learned from these mistakes." He paused, letting Ji-won's perfect translation carry his words to every species present. "We have united our planet under one government. We have healed the scars we inflicted on Earth. We have reached for the stars not with weapons but with wonder. We ask to join this council because we believe we can contribute to galactic peace and prosperity." For 2 hours, the council asked questions. Dr. Park answered queries about human biology and culture. Dong-Woo explained Earth's defense capabilities, emphasizing they were purely protective. Ji-won facilitated complex translations when technical terms confused the software. Some council members seemed genuinely interested. A being that looked like floating jellyfish asked thoughtful questions about human art and philosophy. An insectoid creature wanted to know about Earth's biodiversity, but others, especially those near Tholmak, radiated hostility. "Your species has only existed for a few million years," one alien said, its voice dripping with disdain. "You achieved space travel less than 3 centuries ago. What wisdom can you offer beings who have sailed the stars for 100,000 years?" Tae-Young remained calm. "We offer fresh perspective. We offer enthusiasm and new ideas. We offer friendship to those who would accept it." The session ended without a decision. The council needed time to deliberate. Tae-Young and his team were given quarters on Convergence Prime to await the verdict. That night, as Tae-Young reviewed the day's events, Hannah knocked on his door. She looked worried. "I've been analyzing the council members' reactions," she said. "Most are neutral. A few are positive. But the Velkrin and their allies are actively hostile. Tolmach barely tried to hide his contempt. I noticed, Taeyang said. Why do they hate us so much? We've never even met them before. I think they fear us, Hana said quietly. Humans went from primitive agriculture to faster-than-light travel in just 10,000 years. Most species take 100 times longer. We're advancing too quickly. It scares them. Ji-won joined them, carrying her own concerns. I've been monitoring communications. The Velkrin are meeting with other council members privately. They're lobbying against us. Dongwoo's security team reported similar findings. The Velkrin were working hard to ensure humanity's rejection. 3 days later, the council reconvened. Taeyang stood once more on the central platform, but this time the atmosphere felt different. Colder, more hostile. Tolmach spoke with barely concealed satisfaction. The council has reviewed Earth's petition. We have also reviewed evidence of your species' true nature. A holographic display appeared, showing human military vessels, weapons tests, and footage of Earth's defense fleet conducting exercises. You claim to come in peace, Tolmach continued, but you bring an armada. You say you have left violence behind, but your warships grow more powerful each year. You are not ready for council membership. Taeyang felt anger rising in his chest. Those are defensive forces. Every species here maintains military capabilities. Why are we being judged by a different standard? Because you are dangerous, another council member said. Young, aggressive, unpredictable. The vote came swiftly. 14 species voted against Earth's membership. Only 3 voted in favor. The decision was clear, but it was not enough for the Velkrin. Tolmach raised all 4 of his arms dramatically. The council issues an ultimatum to Earth. You will cease all military expansion immediately. You will submit to council inspectors who will monitor your activities. You will accept our guidance in all matters of space travel and colonization. If you refuse, you will be considered a hostile species. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Even some of Tolmach's allies seemed surprised by the harsh terms. Taeyang felt the eyes of the galaxy upon him. This was no longer about membership. This was about Earth's sovereignty, its freedom, its right to exist as an independent world. I must consult with my government, he said carefully. No, Tolmach said flatly. You are Earth's ambassador. You speak for your planet. Decide now. Taeyang looked at his team. Hana's face was pale. Ji-won looked terrified. Dongwoo's hand hovered near his sidearm, though what good would one weapon do here? He thought of Earth, of the billions of people who had trusted him with this mission, of the generations who had worked to reach the stars, of humanity's dream to join the galactic community as equals, not as subjects. Taeyang Kim straightened his shoulders and looked directly at Tolmach. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. No. The single word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Earth will not submit to your ultimatum. We will not surrender our freedom. We will not become your puppets. We came here seeking friendship, but we will not beg for it. Humanity will remain free. Tolmach's expression darkened. Around the chamber, other council members shifted nervously. Some looked impressed. Others looked horrified. The galaxy had just changed, though no one yet understood how much. You have made a grave mistake, human, Tolmach said softly. The journey home felt endless. The Horizon's promise traveled through the darkness between stars, carrying its broken crew back to Earth. They had left as ambassadors of peace. They were returning as witnesses to murder. Dr. Hannah Park spent most of the journey in her quarters, writing detailed reports about everything that had happened. Every word Tolmach had spoken, every vote cast against them, every moment of Taeyang's final speech. She wrote until her hands cramped and her eyes burned, because someone needed to remember everything. Ji-won Choi stopped crying after the first day. The grief transformed into something harder, colder. She compiled every piece of data they had collected about the Galactic Council, military positions, trade routes, political alliances, technological capabilities. If Earth was going to fight, they would need every advantage. Captain Dongwoo Lee coordinated with Admiral Subin Han through quantum communications. The Admiral's face appeared stern on every call. Her fleet was already mobilizing, but she wanted to know everything Dongwoo could tell her about Council security, weapon systems, and defensive capabilities. They think they're untouchable, Dongwoo told her. They've been the dominant power for so long that they've become arrogant. Their protocols are predictable. Their response times are slow. They expect enemies to fight by their rules. Good, Admiral Han said quietly. We won't. Earth's moon appeared in the viewport after 2 weeks of travel. Home. Hana felt tears on her face for the first time since the execution. Behind that beautiful gray sphere hung Earth itself, blue and green and perfect. Worth fighting for, worth dying for. The Horizon's Promise landed at Geneva Spaceport. A military escort met them. The world had already seen the recording of Ambassador Kim's execution. Billions of humans had watched their representative die. The planet was in shock, grief, and rage all at once. President Hyun-woo Park met them personally in the secure government compound. He looked 20 years older than when they had left. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. Tell me everything, he said simply. For 6 hours, Hana, Ji-won, and Dong-woo briefed the president and his cabinet. They explained the political dynamics of the council. They detailed how the Velkrin hegemony controlled most decisions through their alliances. They showed evidence that Tholmak had planned to reject Earth's membership from the beginning, that the execution was meant to crush humanity's spirit before they could become a threat. They see us as children, Hana explained, dangerous children who might grow into rivals. They wanted to break us early. Will we break? President Park asked quietly. General Min-seo Kang slammed her hand on the table. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes like stone. No, we mobilize. We strike back. We show them what happens when you murder our people. General, the president said carefully, we're talking about war with a galactic coalition. 17 alien species, technology we barely understand, resources beyond counting. They murdered our ambassador on live broadcast, General Kang said. They did it to humiliate us, to terrify us. If we don't respond, every species in the galaxy will think they can do the same. Earth becomes a victim, a target. We have to fight. Dr. Young Jae-shin spoke up from the end of the table. He was the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Research Division. A thin man with tired eyes and brilliant mind. We're not as outmatched as you think, Mr. President. We've been developing new technologies for 5 years, ever since we knew we might encounter advanced civilizations. We have weapons the Council has never seen. President Park rubbed his temples. Show me. The next day, they traveled to a secret military facility in the Australian outback. Dr. Shin presented his work. Quantum torpedoes that could teleport through shields. Adaptive armor that learned from enemy weapons and adjusted its properties in real time. Neural combat AI that could pilot ships faster and more efficiently than biological beings. But the real advantage, Dr. Shin said, pulling up schematics, is unpredictability. The Council has fought wars for millennia. They have protocols for everything. Standard formations, expected tactics. They're like chess players who have played the same game for 1,000 years. We're going to play poker instead. Commander Bo-ra Kim watched the presentation with intense focus. She was 26 years old, Special Forces trained and Tae-yang Kim's niece. When her uncle's execution was broadcast, she had been on a training mission. She had watched him die on a small screen in a transport shuttle. Since then, she had requested immediate transfer to combat operations. I want to lead the first strike, she told General Kang after the briefing. You're emotionally compromised, the general said, but not unkindly. I'm motivated, Bo-ra corrected. I know the stakes. I won't hesitate. And every soldier on my team knows what we're fighting for. That's worth more than any weapon. General Kang studied the young woman. Then she nodded. Form your unit. Call it whatever you want. Give them the best training and equipment we have. You'll have your chance, Bo-ra Kim saluted. The Retribution Corps was born. President Park addressed the world 3 days after the diplomatic team returned. The broadcast reached every screen on Earth and every human colony in space. 4 billion people watched him speak. Citizens of Earth, he began. You have all seen what happened to Ambassador Tae-yang Kim. You watched as the Galactic Council executed him for refusing to surrender our freedom. They killed him to send us a message. They wanted us to be afraid. They wanted us to submit. His voice grew stronger. The Council does not understand humanity. We do not submit to tyrants. We do not bow to murderers. We do not forget those who harm us. Ambassador Kim died defending Earth's right to exist as a free and independent world. His sacrifice will not be meaningless. President Park's next words changed history. I am activating Protocol Prometheus. As of this moment, Earth is at war with the Galactic Council. Every military force is mobilized. Every resource is committed. Every citizen is asked to stand with us. We did not want this war. We came in peace. But if the Council wants to see humanity's violent nature, then we will show them exactly what we are capable of. The announcement sent shockwaves through Earth's population. Some celebrated. Some protested. Most simply accepted that their world had changed forever. War had come. Within weeks, Earth transformed. Factories retooled to produce weapons and warships. Millions of volunteers signed up for military service. Scientists who had spent careers on peaceful research now worked on ways to destroy alien vessels. Artists created propaganda showing human strength and unity. Admiral Han's fleet grew from 50 ships to 500, then to 5,000. Shipyards in Earth orbit worked 24 hours a day, building new vessels using Dr. Shin's advanced designs. Each ship carried the names of cities, heroes, and values. The Indomitable, the Never Surrender, the Taeyang's Vengeance. Ji-Won Choi joined the Intelligence Division, using her linguistic skills to intercept and decode Council communications. Hana Park led teams studying alien biology to find weaknesses in Council species. Dong-Woo Lee trained special forces in zero-gravity combat techniques, and Bora Kim trained her Retribution Corps. 300 soldiers, the best humanity had. They practiced boarding actions, sabotage operations, assassination missions. They learned to fight in alien atmospheres and impossible conditions. They became weapons pointed at the heart of the Council. 3 months after Taeyang's death, Earth was ready. Admiral Han assembled her armada at the edge of human space. 5,000 warships, each carrying hundreds of fighters and thousands of crew. Millions of humans ready to fight, ready to die if necessary. From the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable, Admiral Han recorded a message. It was simple. Just 7 words in Korean, English, Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, and every other human language. Then it was translated into the languages of all 17 Council species and broadcast across the galaxy. You wanted violence. Now you have it. The human armada jumped to faster than light speed. They were done talking, done negotiating, done being victims. The endless war had begun. On Convergence Prime, Counselor Nis received the transmission. The insectoid had opposed the execution from the beginning, now watching thousands of human ships appear on long-range sensors, heading toward Council space like an unstoppable wave. Nis understood something the rest of the Council had missed. They had killed one human to frighten billions. Instead, they had united those billions in purpose. Earth's greatest weakness had always been its internal divisions. The Council had given humanity something it rarely achieved. A single, clear enemy that every human could fight together. Nis secretly transmitted detailed information about Council military positions to a human frequency. It was a small act of rebellion, but perhaps, Nis thought, it would help the humans survive long enough to make the Council regret their cruelty. In his private chambers, High Arbiter Tholmak received reports of the approaching human fleet. He dismissed them. 5,000 ships against the might of 17 species? The humans were committing suicide. He would understand his mistake soon enough. The silence in the Council chamber felt heavy enough to crush worlds. Ambassador Taeyang Kim stood alone on the central platform, surrounded by 17 alien species, who now looked at him with expressions ranging from shock to fury. His single word of defiance still echoed in everyone's minds. High Arbiter Tholmak's forearm spread wide in a gesture that Hana had learned meant extreme displeasure. Ambassador Kim, you do not understand the situation. This is not a negotiation. The Council has spoken. Earth will comply or face consequences. What consequences? Taeyang asked. His voice remained steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. We have broken no laws. We have threatened no one. Earth has every right to maintain its own defense and sovereignty. One of the Insectoid Council members, Counselor Nis, clicked its mandibles nervously. Perhaps we should allow the humans time to reconsider. This is a significant decision. Time for what? Another Council member snapped. Time for them to build more weapons? Time for them to spread their violence across more systems? Taeyang felt the conversation slipping away from him. We are not violent. Yes, we defend ourselves, but every species here does the same. Every species here has earned their place through millennia of proven stability. Tholmak said coldly. You have existed in space for mere decades. You are children playing with fire. The argument continued for hours. Taeyang defended Earth's position while Council members threw accusations and demands at him. His team could only watch from the visitors' gallery. Dongwu looked ready to fight his way out. Hana frantically took notes, trying to understand the legal frameworks being cited against them. Jiwon translated everything, though her hands shook. On the second day of hearings, everything changed. The council presented new evidence. A human cargo ship called the Morning Star had been seized in neutral space by Velkran forces. This vessel was carrying weapons, Tholmak announced. Weapons intended for the Drool, a species currently in conflict with council members. Earth is not merely defending itself. Earth is arming our enemies. The holographic display showed containers allegedly found on the Morning Star. They contained advanced human weapons technology. Taeyang felt his blood turn cold. That's impossible. The Morning Star is a civilian transport carrying medical supplies and farming equipment. This evidence is fabricated. You call the council liars? Tholmak's voice carried dangerous anger. I call this specific evidence false, Taeyang said firmly. The Velkran seized a human ship illegally, and now they're creating false charges to justify it. The council erupted in shouting. Some species demanded proof of Taeyang's claims. Others insisted the evidence spoke for itself. A few, like Councillor Nis, remained silent but looked troubled. Admiral Subin Han, commanding Earth's defense fleet from far away, received urgent transmissions about the situation. She immediately sent messages trying to reach the council, providing cargo manifests and crew testimonies that proved the Morning Star carried only civilian goods. But her messages were blocked. The council refused to accept any communications from Earth except through their ambassador. Taeyang tried everything. He presented evidence. He called witnesses. He demanded the Morning Star's crew be allowed to testify. Each request was denied. The trial, he realized, had been decided before it began. On the third day, Tholmak made his final accusation. Ambassador Kim, you stand accused of conspiracy to arm enemies of the council, espionage against council members, and inciting violence in neutral space. These charges carry the ultimate penalty under council law. This is murder, Hana shouted from the gallery. You're inventing charges to kill him for refusing your ultimatum. Guards moved to restrain her, but Dongwu stepped in front of her. More guards surrounded them both. Dr. Park speaks from emotion, Taeyang said quickly, trying to protect his team. But she raises a valid point. These charges appeared only after I refused council demands. The timing suggests political motivation rather than justice. The timing, Tholmak said smoothly, suggests we investigated your activities more closely after you revealed your true hostile nature. What we found confirmed our worst fears about humanity. The vote came next. Would the council find Ambassador Taeyang Kim guilty of crimes against galactic peace? Councillor Nis abstained. 2 other species voted not guilty. 14 species voted guilty. The verdict was clear. Taeyang felt the floor drop away beneath him. He thought of his wife and children on Earth. He thought of the billions of humans who had believed in this mission. He thought of how spectacularly he had failed them. The penalty for these crimes is death, Tholmak announced, to be carried out immediately as a warning to Earth and all species who would threaten council stability. No, Jiwon screamed. Dongwu lunged forward, but 6 guards tackled him. Hana fought against her own restraints, desperately trying to reach the ambassador. Taeyang held up his hand, stopping his team's struggles. Please don't give them an excuse to hurt you too. He looked at each of them. Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them the council fears us because we're different, because we're young, because we're strong. Tell them this isn't the end. Ambassador Kim, Tholmak said with false solemnity. Do you have final words? Taeyang turned to face the council members. His voice carried clearly through the chamber and through the recording devices that would broadcast this moment across the galaxy. I came here with hope. I believed in the possibility of peaceful coexistence between humanity and the Galactic Council. I was wrong. This council doesn't want peace. It wants obedience. It doesn't want cooperation. It wants domination. He took a breath. You're executing me to send a message to Earth, to frighten us into submission. But you don't understand humanity. You think showing your power will make us bow. Instead, you're showing us exactly what you are. Bullies, tyrants, murderers dressed in the clothes of civilization. Tholmak's expression darkened. You should have spent your final words begging for mercy. Humanity doesn't beg, Taeyang said quietly. And we don't forget. The execution chamber was a circular platform surrounded by energy fields. Guards escorted Taeyang to the center. He walked calmly, refusing to show fear. In the gallery, his team watched helplessly. Ji-won was crying. Hana's face was pale with shock and fury. Dongwu looked like a man memorizing every face in the council so he could hunt them later. The molecular disintegration field activated. It was supposed to be painless, breaking down matter at the atomic level in seconds. Tae-young Kim stood straight, his eyes on the distant stars visible through the chamber's transparent ceiling. His last thought was of Earth. Beautiful, imperfect, wonderful Earth. He hoped they would remember him. He hoped they would stay strong. The field reached full power. Ambassador Tae-young Kim dissolved into atoms, scattered across the execution chamber like dust in the wind. The recording was broadcast across every council world and distributed to all member species. It was meant to demonstrate the cost of defying the council. It was meant to terrify Earth into submission. Instead, it did something else entirely. On Earth, billions of humans watched their ambassador die. They saw him stand bravely. They heard his final words about humanity, never begging and never forgetting. They watched the council murder an innocent man for the crime of refusing to surrender his world's freedom. In homes and offices, in military bases and government buildings, in cities and small towns across Earth, the same emotion swept through humanity like wildfire. Not fear, not submission. Rage, pure, unlimited, absolute rage. Admiral Subin Han received the recording aboard her flagship. She watched it once, her face expressionless. Then she watched it again. Then she gave orders to her fleet. Prepare for war. On Convergence Prime, Hana and the surviving team members were given 12 hours to leave council space. As guards escorted them to their ship, Counselor Nis approached carefully. "I am sorry," the insectoid whispered. "Some of us did not want this, but Tholmak and the Velkrin control the council now." "Then the council is dead," Hana said flatly, "and it doesn't know it yet." The Horizon's promise departed from Convergence Prime. Its mission of peace was over. Behind it, the Galactic Council celebrated their victory over human arrogance. They had no idea what they had just begun.